Previously on AFTN.
Albania is going to be quaking in their boots when we get there for the Nations League. Did that the wrong way, right? I tried to do my Albanian eagle. not quite sure what that ended up as.
Honestly, don't know what that was.
We need video in here. Well, hello again, and welcome everyone to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. If you're listening to this show on the podcast, this is episode 298. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And hopefully we are joined on the phone by Richmond Soccer League Division 1, maybe Division 2, whatever division he's in. Leading scorer, I'm sure, with how good he tells me he is, Joe Deasy.
Hello.
So, good to have you joining us on the phone, Joe. Unfortunately, Zach can't make it tonight. He's away. What was it you said he was doing, Steve? He's away fighting some football fans in South America or something?
No, that'll come up later in the headlines.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that in a bit. We have a lot to get through tonight. We're going to talk Whitecaps, Sounders, unfortunately. Whitecaps in general, MLS. Going to bring you a couple of interviews. We're going to hear from Aly Ghazal, who's going to talk about the Whitecaps season, his own season, and also his time away with Egypt. And we've got, in part 3, 18-minute chat with the Commissioner, Don Garber.
That's why I'm wearing the villain shirt.
We are also going to have a kind of Batman-themed show, because yesterday was Batman Day.
Yeah, it was.
So, just before we get into it, let's see who everyone's favourite superhero is. Let's start with Joe.
Oh, God, it's putting me on the spot.
That's what Michael likes to do, put people on the spot.
Yeah. I guess Iron Man's pretty cool.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
which is the opposite, the Marvel version of Batman.
Yeah, I know who Iron Man is. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying he's kind of the same billionaire type, likes his scientific stuff.
I have always liked Batman, but if we're looking for villain, my villain Joker does it for me.
Still character.
Yeah. I've always wanted to be the Invisible Man.
Okay.
But that's just for...
A lot of people would be concerned about that.
Yeah, I would be visiting the iZombie set a lot. And we might come to that later on the show.
I think the Joker is the most intriguing.
For sure.
Yes.
Especially recently, too.
And he has better hair. Well, certainly better hair than me, anyway.
Green hair, yeah.
Yeah. That would go down well, I guess, with some Sounders fans. I'm sure there's a few of them that had green hair in the crowd yesterday. We're going to do part 1, talking about the Whitecaps and the Sounders. Obviously, it was a massive loss for Vancouver. After the match, Robbo said that he felt the Whitecaps deserved to win. Brian Schmetzer said he felt Seattle deserved to win. What say you guys? Like, Joe, did the Caps deserve something from that game? Were they unlucky not to at least get a point?
There's 2 questions there. I think they didn't deserve to win because they didn't win, if that makes sense. The pressure was definitely there at certain key points of the game, but it's just the same problems that we keep going back to with this team. So do they deserve to win? No, because they don't have a habit of taking advantage of these chances.
Yeah, Russell Tybert was good after the match. He spoke to us in the media and also spoke on the radio as well, and basically said it's fine saying that we played well and we had all those chances. If you don't take them, it counts for nothing, and it basically does. You can say whether they deserve to win or not, but ultimately, if you don't score, you don't deserve to win. And
he was definitely being real. He was definitely being authentic.
And I mean, that is what it really boils down to. If you are looking at chances created and all that kind of stuff, we put up a good show.
Yeah.
It was an entertaining match. We certainly had our chances, but
Seattle took care of the chances they needed.
I mean, we'll get into what maybe led to not getting anything from the game, but we're going to break down the game. First of all, we're looking at the goals, and then we're going to do our kind of good, bad, and ugly thing that we did the last game, because I like the way how that panned out. So let's just start by looking at the 3 goals. Now, the first one for Seattle, lovely 7 or 8 passing move from a free kick in their own half, moved the ball about really well, and it culminated in a really good finish from Rui Diaz in the 21st minute. Now, neither Henry nor Waston picked him up, but I don't know, I kind of feel Henry was more at fault.
I disagree with that.
You disagree?
100%.
Oh.
I felt like Henry was there to got in front of Rio Diaz. I think Waston was behind him. I thought Waston should have picked up his run and gotten to the ball.
Waston did almost get to the ball. He almost closed down the shot, but Rui Diaz got there a little bit before he did. I really don't know who to blame. I think you can blame them both a little bit. I kind of know what Henry was thinking. Like when 2 defenders are defending a cross and they're supposed to be working together, you don't defend the same lane. You spread out and you each defend a possible, cross that from a certain angle. But if you're going to do that, you have to make sure you know who's there, know where the threats are, know who's behind you, and they didn't do that. So I think you can put blame on both of them equally.
But then also the lead up too. You got Leardom who made that run. He's a fullback. You should have Davies possibly there too. Yeah. He should have tracked that run as well.
They did move the ball about really quickly and really well though. I mean, should Marinovic have done better? Should he have come out a little bit quicker?
A little bit,
really much he could have done.
I don't think for maybe he just had tunnel vision on the cross. I don't think he expected Rio Diaz to get there. So I don't know. Maybe
the cross came in very quickly as well.
Yeah, I mean, he risked getting a boot to the head, I think, probably if he did come out. But
the second goal, definitely no doubting on whose fault that is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it was a horrible no-look back pass from Brett Levi's, and whether he just underhit it, whether he thought there was a man there, did he hear a shout and try to play it back to Henry? I don't know. But it was a nice little step over by Rui Diaz. Kind of committed Marinovic to the tackle, and then he just easily went round him. He's not going to get too many easier finishes than that. I think that's 5 goals in 5 games now for the little Peruvian. It was a horrible goal, Joe. Yeah,
as someone who's made that kind of a back pass several times, I think it was definitely just an under-hit pass by Levi's there. It really is hard to find anyone else to blame, and it's with a heavy heart that I say that, because he's had such a good season. He's been one of the few positives in this strangely inconsistent season. But hopefully it's just a learning experience for him, because he really didn't look back at all. He assumed, and that's dangerous to do at the professional level.
He looked so gutted afterwards, and then Waston, watching the game back this morning, Waston basically goes over to him just like, come on, just get on with it.
Yeah, which a captain should do.
But Marinovic, on both the goals, but especially that second one, he just looked so pissed off.
Yeah.
There's not really much.
Because they got to the magical 2 goals at that point.
Yeah. Although I did ask Kendo after the game about letting 2 goals in again, and that did not go down very well with him. Not at all. It was at the end of the interview after that, really. He basically said, oh, yes. It's always the defence. It's a team thing. And he is right.
No, he is right there.
But
yesterday it was more towards the back line.
He raises an interesting point. We are a team that ships a lot of goals, but do we lay the blame more at the feet of the defenders or the lack of a functional midfield to?
That's what my argument's been for a long time. The midfield causes a lot of this goal.
I think there's a lot of fault to go round, sadly.
Yeah, I think if you look at it on paper, we have a quite defensive midfield pairing. Now our starting pairing is Ghazal and Tybert.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the wingers aren't doing their job or something wrong with the structure of the team that means, particularly from wide positions, we really are vulnerable to attacks and things like that.
I mean, that goal came in the 42nd minute, and it was looking bleak.
Yep.
Very, very, very bleak. And you thought, if we can somehow get something before half-time, we might be in with a shout.
And they did.
Yeah, I didn't fancy that we would, but Kai Kamara, a great header, and he was really good in the air all game yesterday. But for that one in particular, Rose McIver superbly, you might even want to say.
I have a feeling you put that in there just for the mention.
Ultimately, not enough, and the headmaster couldn't get the better of the geography teacher, and that was the only Whitecaps goal. But it was a well taken goal. It was 12th of the season, and just showing what he means to this team.
He had a chance right before that as well, right?
That was the one that Alonso cleared off the line.
Yeah. And for the goal, I think I only watched it once or twice, but he took Alonso or someone out with his hip. That's how high he jumped.
Yeah.
There was someone in a heap on the floor.
It was Alonso.
Yeah.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Makes it all the more sweet, really. It's like he should get 2 goals just for that. But yeah, we're so reliant on him, especially the way that we play. And I think set pieces, we expected our team to be better at that this year, but it's only come out in glimpses, really.
Yeah, and a lot of that you have to feel comes down to the delivery or the lack of it. And we obviously missed Reina yesterday. That there were some good elements, there were some bad elements, and there were some just downright ugly elements from the game. If we start with the positives, look at some of the good. The fight back was, I don't know if I would say stirring, but it was good, it was strong. They dug themselves into a hole, and we've seen Whitecaps teams in the past let their heads go down. This team didn't, and they battled back, and it felt like they had belief and hunger, and they knew exactly what they were needing to do to get back into the game. Ultimately, they didn't do it, but at least it was good to see that, Joe. Yeah,
actually, I've waited 10 minutes, and I'm finally going to bring up my Richmond Soccer League game today. We were in a very similar situation. We were down 3-1. We battled back to 3-3, and then a questionable penalty, shall we say, made it 4-3 to the opposition. But my point is that when that happens, that fight that you go through, even though the result in the end wasn't favourable, I wouldn't be surprised if in that dressing room there's kind of a defiant vibe because of the manner of which the defeat happened.
I think there always is a bit of a defiant vibe, though, because Robo likes to play this, we are the underdogs against the world, we don't get respect, we don't get the publicity and all that kind of stuff. So, I agree. I think they can take a lot from it. And we've got to admit, they were playing the most informed team in all of MLS just now, who I would not be surprised at this moment in time if they don't make the MLS Cup from the West, because they're riding their luck. They're not playing brilliantly, but they're getting the results. So we hung in far better in this game than we did in the one back in July, which kick-started Seattle.
I kind of agree that I thought they were the better team. Vancouver was.
Yeah. Seattle offered little, really.
Yeah, I felt like Seattle was just sitting back and waiting for Vancouver to make mistakes, and they pounced on those 2 mistakes when it happened.
Yeah. Well, we created a lot of chances. 21 shots to 7. 5
on target.
Yeah, but Seattle had 5 from 7 on target.
From 7 target,
well,
that's the difference.
That just shows the waste. But we're concentrating on the good for now.
Yeah.
We had the better of the possession.
Yeah.
We did force Seattle onto the back foot, and we weren't threatened. So, I mean, that's all positives. Looking at some of the bad stuff, I don't like playing the bad luck card because you kind of make your own luck, and Schmetzer kind of said that after the match as well. But Kamara did hit the post after doing such a good job, had the ball cleared off the line. Teixeira nearly tied it up at 2-2, but I think it was a save from Fry that put it back for a deflection anyway. Not bad luck, though, was Mosquita's miss. That was just pure bad. For me, going back to our fine lines moment of change of the match, that was it. We take the lead in the 11th minute, whole different ball game.
Yeah.
And
you force them to open
Yeah.
up, they make mistakes possibly, and then you could counter and
yeah,
score even more.
I mean, you can't defend that miss, Joe. It was shocking.
Yeah, and it showed the difference between Mosqueda and Reyna. I think the outcome would have been completely different if it was Reyna. And like it really is just that simple. Reyna is someone who is more efficient than Mosqueda.
Yeah, and like the thing is, I agree with probably Mosqueda playing. I know Steve's got some thoughts on that. We'll come to that in a sec, but he kind of seemed in form. He'd got a couple of goals in his last couple of matches, and I thought he could do that role well. But you're looking at clinical finishers, and yes, Seattle spent money. They've brought in the Peruvian Messi. I'm not sure what tag we can give Mosqueda, the Uruguayan Jarju? I don't know.
No, he's not that bad.
The Uruguayan Mosqueda.
Yes, let's go with that then. But I mean, you need guys. He got into so many good positions. I mean, that wasn't his only wasted opportunity. He got into the positions, and that's what you want him to do.
Yeah, there was
but
that
you need
one
a guy that's going to finish it.
There was a one shot in the second half where he was from a tight angle, kind of from one side, and he it was a bullet of a shot, laser beam of a shot, but it just went over the bar. So he definitely had enough chances to make a difference in this game.
I mean, it's certainly the terms of quality, and I thought he was a good player to play in there, Joe. Did you think that he was the right option? Taking away how it panned out, did you think that he was the guy that should have been in there?
Well, I think it came down to Mosqueda or Felipe. Like, those were the two people you think could play that number 10 role. I think it would have been easy. It would have been interesting to try Davies there, but maybe this wasn't a game to experiment. Before the game, I definitely would have gone for Mosqueda. Felipe it doesn't seem like it's really been clicking with him, and like you said, Michael, go with the player who's in form, and just we're missing Reyna. Just make the best out of it, and the gamble didn't really work out in the end.
I wish they kind of would have gambled. I think I said it last week too on the show that that I thought Davies was the right person to put there. He's got a ton of chemistry with Kamara. It would have been something Seattle wasn't expecting. I'm sure they wouldn't be expecting that. And you would have been able to get some different options on the wings. Davies down the middle, I felt like yesterday he was kind of missing. He couldn't get in the game.
He was kicked to hell.
Yeah,
I mean that was part of it.
There was a number of times he got made a break, but it was just something lacking. I think maybe playing in the middle, he could have pushed right down their throats instead of going down the sides and everything like that. And maybe you put Breckshay in from the beginning of the match, and maybe he. Well, I know he doesn't come off. It didn't come off as a sub, but maybe he would have gotten some kind of boost at being a starter or something like that.
I don't know if you saw Russell Beresford's tweet that there was a guy when he was bringing Shea on kept going no, and Robbo was looking at him, and then he goes down the front, and then security escorted him away.
Yeah.
If we're talking about bad, Shea was bad when he came on.
Yeah,
he just seemed to have no idea what he was meant to be doing, and then when they had set pieces, he wasn't going into the box. Like I'm sure they probably told him, like maybe they have a set that fullbacks don't go into the box. You cover the thing, but why not put a 6'2", 6'3" guy, an additional height in the box, and put Davies as covering back? When they were bringing him on, I thought, are we going to see him at left back, or are they going to pull Davies at left back? And I've been complimentary of what Shea's done at left back in some of the games this year. He just did not seem to have any idea, Joe, as to what he was meant, what the game plan was for him.
Yeah, we've seen him lost so many times. When I saw him coming on, I thought Robbo was going to put him as a striker and go to a two-striker formation to push for the goal. But yeah, he didn't look very good. Davies, go back to that, didn't have a great game either. I was looking at WhoScored.com, and they said that he completed no dribbles. And for someone who's like leading the league or something in dribbles, that wasn't good. But to be fair, he was being kicked out of the game. Yeah,
I mean, he's going to get that in all the games for the rest of the year now. Folk know that if you kind of neutralise him, you've taken, I don't want to say the only attacking threat, because he's not, because Kamara and Reyna have been excellent with Teixeira's backup, but you're taking a massive piece of the Whitecaps' armoury out the game. The plan yesterday was, from like listening to a little bit of what Robbo was saying at training on Friday, he wanted his fullbacks to get high, forward, and try and take the middle of the park outfit and to attack on the wings. And Nerwinski was getting forward a lot in that first half in particular, but his delivery was really, really bad, I thought.
The worst I've seen his delivery. Usually very consistent with his right foot, like sending the ball in. And the fact that Levi's didn't have a good game either means that game plan basically went down the toilet very quickly.
And I think they had to rely too much on going down the middle, and that's where they lost the ball all the time.
I mean, that's Joe and Nick talked about it in the preview show. That's where Seattle were strongest, and you had to win the battle in the middle, and we didn't.
Remember a couple times we saw that Davies was not even defensively. When they were playing defensively, he was playing more to the middle, covering Ladero.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe because he was playing defensively, he wasn't able to break out wide because he was so far in.
Mm-hmm.
If we get to the ugly part of the match now, decision making by the Whitecaps in and around the box. It frustrated me the whole afternoon. I asked Robbo about it afterwards, and we'll hear that. Tybert commented on it as well. There's too many times, and we've seen it all season, but I mean, yesterday was kind of like it in a nutshell. Misplaced passes, wrong decisions made, just a poor shot, holding on to the ball far too long. And the 21 shots to 7, 6 of those were blocked. So, I mean, that's someone trying to take a shot when it's not the best option for them. We're just far too wasteful. Teixeira, Mosqueda, worst culprits for me. Teixeira, there was one incident in the second half that just, I was so mad at him. He was in the box, and then he turned one way, turned the other, then he decided to go back again when there's a man open to play a pass to.
I think it was,
and then the chance just fell.
I think it was Kamara or some.
Might even have been Davies.
I can't remember, but somebody was
wide open, but he just wanted to take another turn.
Yeah, on the far post.
And Fonzie's another one though. He holds onto the ball far too long, and we saw it a few times yesterday. He got dispossessed quite easily.
Yeah.
Were you as frustrated as I was watching that, Joe?
Yeah, I would actually expand on that time frame that you mentioned about this season. It's kind of been, I think, for most of Robbo's tenure, he's relied on the creativity of the individuals rather than, but this might be just me saying this, but it's purely a guess, rather he's relying on the creativity of the individual attackers rather than things that they go over in training or, set sequences that they make, things like that. And, if the players are in a dry spell creatively or don't have the creativity to break down a very solid backline, then you're left throwing stones at the wall,
Yeah, Robbo gets a lot of stick, and there's good reasons to blame him for some of the stuff that's happened this year, but ultimately he's picking what yesterday was the best team I feel he could have put out there
for sure.
And he's said it after the match. It's like he can't put the ball in the net for them. He can't tell them not to play a stupid ball across the top of the box. It's like you have to trust the players to play. And someone was tweeting about get Bobby out. Someone had a sign yesterday, get Bobby out. Getting Leonard Deasy out is not going to make this team better.
At this moment
in time. I just don't see the hang up on that. I don't know what they think, getting rid of Bobby, all of a sudden we're going to release, $20 million to bring new players in.
In the long run, it might, Zach would agree it would help.
Yeah.
But not in the short term.
I don't think Bobby's earning $20 million though.
No.
But I mean, Robbo as well. I mean, how do you feel on that, Joe? He's putting the players out. It surely has to be them once they're on the pitch.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to a degree, but you have to look at the results. There's coaches in this league who have similar resources to you that are performing a lot better. And you have there has to be a level of accountability. I agree, the Levi's goal, you can't put that down to Robbo, and there's been so many, the red card thing in particular this season. Robbo's not the one out there doing stupid punches and things like that. But at the same time, there's other elements to this team that you think could do with a refresh and it's just the nature of the game. How I was thinking the other day, how many managers can you think of who have seen out their contract at a club? And I'm not talking about MLS and things like that, but in the Premier League or things like in the last 10 years, maybe the two, the Arsenal and Manchester United manager who retired. It's just the nature of this business that you are hired until you are useful to the team. And then, unfortunately, it's a cynical business, and as you always say, Michael, a results-driven business.
Well, I mean, it totally is, and Robbo's from that background and culture as well. He understands that. Have you noticed in a lot of interviews recently, though, like he's never wanted to blame the players, but he has kind of turned it around and basically said, "Oh, once they're on the pitch, it's not me, it's them." And so he is kind of washing his hands a little bit from that. It's like he's maybe reached that point himself.
No, it seems like he wants to put both narratives on out there. That he doesn't want to blame the players, but want to stay positive. But once they're on the pitch, that's what I can't do anything about it. So he's kind of blaming them, but not blaming them, because he's saying he doesn't want to blame them, but he blames them in a way. He's kind of really staying on that fine line of blaming them or not blaming them.
A fine line. If you think of the nature of the coverage of the Whitecaps in Vancouver, would you be surprised if, I don't know, 50% of the squad have no idea what's said in an interview?
Maybe.
Yeah, like I'm just trying. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, but maybe Robbo's saying these things and they have very little implication to the squad harmony.
Yeah, I think some players do watch everything. Some just don't read or listen to anything. So yeah, good point.
We haven't won against Seattle in the last 7 games.
Yes.
Are they starting to own us, or is it just Robbo
I think
doesn't
we're on
feel
the mantelpiece? I'm not 100% sure.
Or does Robbo just feel like we can't beat them with the players they have?
I don't know. He keeps talking up about their quality and how good a team they are, which always annoys me. Just it's like making the excuses before the match. But I'm just sick that rivals come here in big matches and we never rise to the occasion and get the job done. And I talked to Rob, and we'll hear that in part 2, about getting the job done, especially when other teams have done you a massive favour, as happened yesterday. His reply was, well, we've got 14 points out of the last 18, so we have got the job done then, but it's getting the job done when it really matters. And it's against rivals that, time and time again, these last few years under him, we just cannot seem to get a result in these big matches.
Yeah, and as a fan, I've come to dread these games because I have hopes about how the team will play, and I can't think of how many times I've been disappointed, like by the level of performance. I don't know what the cause of that is. In the preview show, we talked about comparing the mentality of the two teams and how Seattle, to Nick and I, seemed like a team who rise to occasions and get the job done. And you can't say that about the Whitecaps.
No, definitely not. Anyway, we'll be back with a little bit more chat about the match and hear from both head coaches after this.
Hello, it's Kai Kamara, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Go to Seattle and get some flannel. Wanna go to Seattle and get some flannel. Flannel, Seattle, flannel, Seattle.
Butt trumpet there. I've picked all the music for this week's show, so just to warn everyone in advance now, it's going to be quite a loud, angry musical show.
I suggested one.
You did suggest one, but it was a thrash metal song as
well.
Yeah,
exactly so.
That just adds into what we've got coming up. Anyway, welcome back. Thank you for joining us tonight. You are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. Now, we're just going to talk a few more things about this game before the coach's audio, then we're going to let Joe go. But first of all, my weekly rant. There was over $2.5 million in salary sitting on the Whitecaps bench yesterday. That's not even covering the likes of Blondell and Reyna and De Jong, who weren't dressed from either form or injury or suspension.
Yeah.
But $2.5 million on the bench. Folk are saying afterwards, Mark Weaver was one of them, about the difference in spending. We are spending money. We are, as I keep saying week after week,
still
we're
not
just spending it very, very poorly.
Still not as much as the higher levels, but
we
enough.
are spending money.
We're spending probably just as just enough to, as what FC Dallas would spend.
But we're spending it on bench warmers.
Exactly.
As well.
The Red Bulls spend probably similar amounts. They really cut their salaries down.
How much are we going to see Felipe, Juarez, Shea, and Blondell going into the end of the season?
Very little, unless there's an injury.
Yeah, I mean, it's a waste of money, Joe.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see a graph of, we'll call it bench money, I guess, through time. Like, it's definitely gone up because I can't think of so many high salary players been on the bench. It would be very interesting to see, I think. But yeah, unacceptable. I know it's a weekly fixture at this point where we point this out, but how have we gotten into this situation? It's just laughable.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
I know one time when there was a lot of money on the bench. That was 2011. When at the end of the year they were playing all the young players and guys like Hasley, and it wasn't nearly as much as right now, but guys like Hasley and Kumienta, they weren't playing because they were putting all the young guys on the
and
team.
I mean, these guys weren't obviously brought in to be bench players.
No.
It's just turned out that they've not been fantastic and they've ended up as bench players. Although
not
Shea was always
good
going to be a bench player.
It seemed like it from the back. But one bench player who, somewhat high, obviously being paid a lot by his club that he signed with, but not as much by us, I think, Jordan Much.
Yeah, it was good to see him back.
Yeah, he's back.
I was concerned just because the BC Place pitch and him don't seem to agree, but he got through the end of the match, and I mean, could he be an important part for us, Joe, now in these remaining 6 games?
I have loved watching Jordan Much, in the limited time that he's been on the field. His technique, he has an underrated kind of strength and technique. That's chance that he a half chance, I should say. The ball was behind him. He tried to flick it on with his back heel to try and get into the goal. He's a creative player who can also do a job defensively. Who's aware. You would think that he would be, a perfect fit for any Robbo system, but that midfield has been an enigma all season, so let's not get into that. But if Much signed with the team next season, I would be a very happy person.
Yeah, he reads the game better than most of the players on the squad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But then the problem with that is you had that with Kenny Miller. He read the game so well, but nobody was on the same wavelength as him, so he was playing passes all over the place and no one was making the runs for him.
I remember you saw that in training a lot too.
Yes, it's very frustrating. So, last thing, and then we'll let Joe rest up after his football antics.
Join his loved ones.
Or join his loved ones, yeah. Where do we go from here? It's cliched to say it's 6 cup finals, but I mean it is. There's no room for error now. Yeah,
you have to approach every game as the Caps tried to approach this one, I think. You have to play your best players in the best positions up until a point where, I don't want to say mathematically it's not possible to make the playoffs, but I think there will come a point, if things go the way we think they will go, that there will be time to experiment or, give some players minutes and start planning for next season, unfortunately.
Now, for me, it's 2 games you can give away 2 games. Obviously, the TFC away game is going to be hard to win because you're traveling out there and they're going to be desperate for points. I think the away game to LAFC is going to be tough, but they're going to have to go in and win all their home games now.
Yeah, totally.
And they are going to have to try and get something out of the LA Galaxy game.
Which they could do.
Yeah, it's because Galaxy are just as long as they can shut down the Galaxy, because attacking them seems very easy for everybody. Everybody is able to score on the Galaxy.
But they do score as well. And
that's what I'm saying.
We leak like a sieve.
We're kind of similar that way. So whoever's the missing...
That could be a 6-5 game. That could be fantastic stuff.
Waston versus Latan is going to be tasty.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to go down for it, but it just seems like a waste because you're spending all that money for something that's probably meaningless.
That's the only chance. It's the only chance you're going to see Zlatan either, too, as well, if you're going to see him play against the Whitecaps.
If you pay for a ticket, you're also paying for that terrible LA Galaxy defense, so maybe you should go down and try and support it.
It's also a terrible place to get to. I've been there once, but that was to watch Chivas. And oh boy, that's a tough place to get to. Last thing, just to kind of mention, if we look in the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
and the season is done and we've got some games to go, I like what Joe said about Blood and Youngsters planning for next year. The problem you have, though...
You loaned some of them out now.
Well, not that, but the problem is you've got then a lame duck as your manager who's not going to be back next year. How much preparation can you properly do for next year? Because Robbo likes to think a couple of transfer windows ahead. So have the club been doing the necessary thinking ahead, or is a new coach going to come in November and have a big task ahead of them?
Well, I feel like the new coach is going to come, if there is a new coach, he's going to come in. He is going to be behind the 8 ball in trying to get players in right away, especially if there is a mass exodus of players, Robbo guys that don't want to play for a new coach, don't want to play in Vancouver anymore. There's going to be if there's a mass exodus for that, he's going to have to come in quickly to revamp the team. But I think because you have a new coach with new ideas, that you're going to get that immediate bump that a lot of teams get with new coaches. It's a matter of, by the summertime, bringing in all the players and filling out your roster. Will that be enough time to get everybody on the board and not worry about the excitement of a new coach?
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. But as far as this organization, if there will be a coaching change and all that, there's 3 things just off the top of my head that I can think of that they can do to prepare for next season. The first one is try and figure out what Anthony Blundell's role in this team is. I don't know what it could be, a run of games. It could be trying him in, a different spot. Like when he came in first, we heard that he can play right wing. Like, why not give him a game there? What's the worst that could happen? The second thing is prepare for life after Alphonso Davies, because he's going to be missed and he won't be here next season. There's no way we're going to replace him with a like-for-like player.
But there's also no way that they're not going to play him, because that's what sells them their tickets.
That's true. That's very true. And the third and final thing is figure out what the back line is going to be next season. So I think it's already pretty much intact with Nerwinski, Waston, and Levi's probably, but that other centre back has kind of been a question. Henry has been okay, hasn't entirely convinced. Maybe you tell them between Mond and Henry, whoever plays better in the remainder of the season is going to be the de facto starter next year.
Well, thank you as always for joining us, Joe. Have you got a preview show planned for this week?
Yeah, we will. Nick and I, and hopefully Gideon will be back, and more fun games for sure.
Awesome. That's going to mean that it's episode 300 next Sunday, so that'll be a biggie.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, before you go, I want to get your opinion. Would you rather be gouged in the eye or spit in the mouth?
Oh, God.
And we're talking on the football pitch. What happens between you and your wife in the bedroom remains in the sanctity of the bedroom.
Yeah, we're talking about, and we'll talk about this later in headline, but I wanted to get your opinion. What would you rather have? What's worse?
That is such a tough question. I'm going to go spat in the mouth. That's the Douglas Costa thing, right?
Yeah.
Did it actually go into your man's mouth? Or
that's what they're saying.
Yeah. I'll give my thoughts in the headlines, but yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for joining us, Joe. Give him a follow online at Cheesy Deasy. No, he's not. He's at Joe Deasy Van.
Yes.
These people that keep changing their Twitter handle, it's confusing. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
So now it's time to hear a little bit from both head coaches. So we're going to hear first from Brian Smetzer and then from Robbo.
Yes, I'm sick of Seattle.
What I thought of the match was that it was a playoff atmosphere match, that there was 2 teams that were desperate for a win. I think Vancouver, had some chances. We're living dangerously. They had some chances at the end where they could have tied it up. So that's a good team. So I thought we were, deserved winners. But at the end of the day, they came out and took it to us in certain parts of the match. So all in all, it was it was an exciting, Cascadia clash.
Up 2-0, Kamara makes it 2-1 in stoppage time, and they had a bit of the flow there. What was the adjustments? What was the thought process at halftime?
Try not to give away as many corner kicks. It's as simple as that. Just be a little bit more careful I would say, or making sure our clearances were up the field instead of out of bounds. They're obviously a very dangerous team with Kamara and Waston and Ghazal and all the guys that they have. So, you know, it was a quality goal. I mean, you saw Kamara, you know, get up over Steph even on one play, you know, which he didn't score on, but he jumped higher than Steph. So, you know, credit to him.
They seem to be going direct to him. He seemed to be winning some head balls in the first half and not as many in the second.
Yeah, that's their style of play. We needed to actually do a better job. Look, if he's going to win some balls, you know, the space right in front of him, we needed to clean that up a little bit, pinching our wide guys in, making sure Ozzy and Gustav weren't pulled too high up the field. I think that was the source of some of their attacks. So on that, we made a couple of adjustments at halftime and tried to figure that out.
As you said, I mean, Vancouver had plenty of chances, but Raul just kind of gets a couple looks. And is that the difference that having an elite-level finisher can provide, that it only takes a couple looks to kind of decide a game like that?
I would say Kamara's an elite-level finisher in his career.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they have those guys. Maybe it's just their night. Maybe it's our luck. I mean, I think teams always make their luck. I think Steph had to make a couple of big saves. You know, the defenders were laying themselves out to block shots. So we're making our own luck, but, you know, again, tonight I thought we were fortunate in a couple moments.
Do you think that your team has played with more confidence going forward since Raul's gotten here, of giving you guys that sort of finishing touch that he's provided?
I'm going to cut you off. Sorry, Matt. It's a team sport. When Will was here, when Clint was here, they had confidence. This group is a very confident group. That's the answer to your question. The entire team is confident. You're looking at a bunch of guys that came into a hostile environment and played a very tough team, and they had the confidence to try and play out of the back, even when, you know, second half when they were putting us under pressure. Nobody was afraid to demand the ball in hard areas of the field. I thought Ozzy again was great. You know, Victor came on the field and did a nice job of establishing some possession, which really helped us. I mean, that whole team is confident in there.
Team got in a bit of a hole early on and then started to come back, just didn't have enough to get over the line. Is that kind of how you maybe saw it?
No, I think sometimes in football you don't get what you deserve. I thought that's what I saw today. I thought we were the better team. You know, I'm not avoiding the fact Seattle have got fantastic players in key areas, and they punished us with two mistakes of ours early on. Yes, then we got ourselves in a hole, but we should have been ahead prior to that. We should have got back into the game, but the boys kept going. The character was unbelievable, and I don't think we got anything out of the game. In fact, let me say, we should have won that game today, and we've lost it, and we have to accept it, and we will. It's not great, it's not ideal, it's disappointing against a rival, but I can't ask them to do anything more other than put the ball in the back of the net myself and maybe not play square balls across the edge of the box. But, you know, we stick together.
Some of the decision making tonight, possibly in the attacks, did leave a lot to be desired.
It did, yeah. Yeah, listen, the games are won in both boxes. That's why the boys at the top are paid the big bucks. You know, you hear that all the time. And we got into some wonderful areas and our final pass was overhit or underhit, or we made the wrong decision. And that's what happens. Doesn't matter how much possession you have in the world, it's what you do in both boxes. And in the first 20 minutes, we didn't do our details correctly. We lost our runner in the first goal, and it was a pullback. And then the second goal, we played a square ball to a top forward, and he scored. So we dug ourselves a hole last time we played Seattle, and we done it again. This time we were unable to get out.
I know you always like to take the belief it's like what you do and you don't want to look at what others do. Other results today, though, really went in your favour. I don't know if you've seen them yet or not, but this was a big opportunity to seize the moment. At some stage, the team needs to get the job done.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit of a cliche to say it's like 6 cup finals, but is that basically what stage we're at now?
Well, prior to this game, we took 14 out of 18 points. So the team was getting the job done. If I asked the team to play it a certain way, they did today. But we weren't clean enough in both boxes. So they didn't get the job today done based upon points. Performance-wise, they're excellent. And I won't fault the performance. What you can fault me on is not getting any points today. And that's where I'll give Seattle credit, because they know, find a way to win. That's what I keep getting told. And credit to them, they've done that.
What's your message going to be to the team then for these last 6 games?
Play like that. If we play like that, we'll be fine. Said we've got a couple of home games, a couple of away games. Results, as you said, went for us in a certain way, but we control, you know, we can control what we control, and those are our games. I don't really care about other teams. I really don't. If we get our job done and we get enough points to get in the playoffs, then we deserve to be there. If we don't, we don't. That's all I can control.
The gaffer's there. Steve, quite amused by the word head balls.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. It caught me off guard.
But yeah, both coaches feeling that they should have won the game. And something which cropped up in Schmetzer's one, but not in Robbo's, was Ozzy Alonso's, I was going to say Alfonso's, but it was on Alfonso, Ozzy Alonso's VAR review that ended up with him getting a yellow card. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time, watched the replay, thought, he does kind of go through in his ankle. But watching it back today, I don't know, I don't even really think it was a yellow card. It was just such a weird decision, because I didn't think you were meant to use VARs to then give out a yellow card.
No, well, that's where it's not, because what it is, the VAR official has deemed that to be a red card. That's in the VAR official's mind. He thinks that's a red card, because I know you didn't think it was that bad, but that the cleats are basically going downward. Like that's not a football move. He's not trying to kick the ball away. He's not trying to. He's basically stamping on his ankle.
Yeah.
So that's a red card worthy. He went to do it, and I think you and somebody else sitting near us said,
that was
that's a red card.
Manuel Veth.
That's right. Yeah. But I said, no way he's giving a red card. Even if it is red card worthy, he's not giving.
Yeah, you said he was going to crap out making the decision.
I called him. I said he was going to. He's too chicken shit to give the call.
I just did not think it was a red card, and
I thought it was based on
yellow
other.
Was worthy, but I didn't think you could give a yellow from a VAR review.
Because I know Simon Borg's not on there anymore, but I still watch instant replay, and I've seen a number of those kind of plays given red cards. And the people that are on that show, they always say that's a red card because it's stamping down on somebody's ankle.
Now, there was a couple of substitutions, obviously, in the second half to try and get some of the attack going. That meant taking Aly Ghazal off. Now,
I thought he played really well yesterday, though.
I mean, it looks like Ghazal and Tiber, we touched upon it in part one, it looks like that's our DM, CM pairing, however you want to class them, whatever formation we play, going forward. But it doesn't really mean that we have a big attacking threat from them, which is why Ghazal was then taken off early yesterday, despite not doing anything bad. But I think the pair of them are looking really good together out there.
Yeah, because the thing is if the other team's attacking, usually it's Ghazal playing deeper in a defensive role. But then when they want to build the attack from the outside, it's Tiber drops back to try to build the ball up forward. So it's a good partnership where they're able to swap out roles when they need to.
Yeah, and I got a good chat with Aly Ghazal at training on Friday, so we're going to bring that for you now. Just talking about his season, the Whitecaps season, and getting back in playing with the Egyptian national team after 4 years away. Really enjoyed this one, so we'll bring that for you now. So, Ali, just back from being over playing for Egypt again for the first time in 4 years. When did you know that you were back kind of on the radar of getting called back into the national team again?
When they changed the coach. Right. I thought that I could enter again because, to be honest, I knew that I will never be there unless this coach leave. So once he was replaced, I had a hope again that I can be there. It was 50-50, just not 100% that I will be there when he leaves, but just 50-50, like I have a chance. So that's when I noticed that I can.
And the new coach spoke very highly of you after the game. He had you as your man of the match. So, I mean, that must be nice to hear that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's opinion from bandits, from supporters, from everyone is valuable. But I guess when your coach say that, I think it's more valuable for me. It's all the same. Like I said, it's important for everyone when he say that I did a good game. But when your coach go out and say it, it's more important.
And obviously a big win in terms of the qualifying. But after the disappointing World Cup, does this feel like it's a whole rebuild now for the squad? Are you kind of starting from scratch again?
Yeah, after the World Cup, they worked hard to get in there. There was a lot of players which they were a lot of experience. They wanted to do it, so they made it. So now it's totally new era, like you say, new coach, and they decided to get like the age of the team like low. They getting young players. They are using some of the old guys, which they were young as well, but now they have the experience that they play the African Cup, they play the World Cup, so it's a good mix at the moment, and I hope this new era goes to as far as it can.
Now, when you first came here, we spoke about possibly getting back into the team, and obviously you did well at Nacional and the issues with the coach, but did you ever worry that maybe coming so far away over to Canada, people would just kind of forget about you?
No, not at all. Like I said to you, 4 years ago when I was in the national team, I was playing in Portugal, and then the coach came and I was playing in Portugal at that time, and he didn't call me. I was playing as well. I was playing good. I was captain of my team, and I didn't get any notice by him. So I was like, okay, anyway, I'm not there. So I go into China. I went to Canada. I didn't think at all. Like I wanted to play in the national team, but I knew it's like when I played in Portugal, I played in Europe. He didn't look at me, so it doesn't matter. I go play whenever I want. When I feel like I want to play football, I will go. I don't care. Unless now when I have this new coach, he's a Mexican. He knows how good the MLS is. Not a lot of a lot of people knows about that because it's difficult to follow the MLS for the time difference, and it's not like it's far from the other side. But when people get to know the league and watch it, they will notice that it's really tough league and it's like big leagues in Europe. So it helped me that he's like from this side and he knows how it is, and the other side as long as I'm doing well here, I feel like it's good for me to be there back.
And talking of that, you are doing well, and I know you've been in and out of the team for part of the year, but every time that you've come in, and off late, the kind of partnership you've had with Russell, it seems the strongest midfield partnership that we have at the moment. How do you feel your season's gone, and are you happy with the way that you are playing just now?
Yeah, to be honest, I expected the season to be better than how it went for me, but you cannot help it. You start the season with an injury and you stay for 4 games outside the lines, and when I come back, at that moment the team were doing well. The guys they're playing good, and it's difficult to get back in the team. I try to do my best every day in training, and so once I step in, I'm ready and I do it. And then it comes middle of the season, it's just a coach decision. He think that that kind of player can give him what he wants in the game. So what I try to do is just focus. So when I play, I prove him. So it came to the moment that we start to play, the team started to do well, we started to get good results, so it kept going. So he kept it, and I feel like it was going well. I hope it will continue until end of the season, until as far as we can go. And it's like you said, like all good players, like you say, it comes that me and Rossi played the most games together, and I think it works very well for me as well.
The way you play, this league seems made for your kind of style of play. Do you feel really comfortable playing over here? Yeah,
to be honest, like I said, I was there, I didn't know a lot about here. So when I came here, I was like, okay, that's a kind of game that I would like to play. Also the help that I get from the coach staff to make me understand more about the game and the kind of team that we have as well, that help the style of play that I do, we are not we are not sitting back most of the time, or not having the ball out of the time. It's just a kind of go and back game, so it's good for me. I feel the style of the game. Anyway, I will adapt for any style, like as a player, but I mean I like the league. I feel like it's good for my style, like you say.
The team's, it's in tough now. There's 7 games to go. Big game obviously on Saturday against Seattle. How are you feeling that this team is equipped to make the playoffs? You're on a good run just now, but you haven't really got any space for any errors really between now and the end of the season. Are you confident you've got what it takes in the team to get to the playoffs?
the simple thing that I will say to you, like what we have been doing the last period, we will continue to do until the end of the season. It gained us success, and we have to continue it to continue our success. So that's the key point for us. We look to game by game. We don't look about we have to win all. For sure, we have to win all this game. We have to think about playoffs. But at the moment, we are thinking game by game. We have a game tomorrow. We are thinking about it. Get the 3 points, and then we think next game. That's it.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Congrats, Ali.
Thank you.
Aly Ghazal there, delighted to be back playing for Egypt and happy to be with the Whitecaps.
And not a fan of the previous Egyptian coach.
No, which I did speak to him when he first came here and he made that very clear back then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was great to see him back. We talked last week that Javier Aguirre had said that he was the best player for him on the pitch. So hopefully a lot more appearances for Ali with the Pharaohs to come. Now, just to wrap this part up, we talked, it looks like Ghazal and Tybert are now our starting pair as DMs or CMs. Reyna's obviously going to come back in. We kind of touched on Jordan Much a little bit. I think the rest of the team is pretty set. For me, maybe to share a spot could be up for grabs, but...
No, I'd say they keep him in.
I think then...
Just because they don't want to... Who else are you going to put in that spot?
Yeah, the only thing that you're looking at then is, does Marcel de Jong come back in for Brett Levi?
That's 50-50 every week. I think it all depends on training for them to see who's up for it.
Yep. Big game coming up against Dallas. We'll talk about how Dallas got on this week and a little bit about that in part 4. But coming up after the break and the messages, we're going to bring you some chat with Don Garber.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
The Shapes there with I Saw Batman in the Laundrette from 1979. One of my favourite years for music.
Is it?
And we're playing that because, well, 2 reasons. One, I feel the Whitecaps might need to put up the bat signal to try and get some help. Which, if they did, who's going to be the hero that's going to answer that, do you think, Steve?
I don't know. It's maybe Kai Kamara. He did yesterday a little bit. He was really the best player on the pitch.
So he is Batman then?
I guess so.
I'll tell him that at training this week. I'm sure he'll like that.
Well, they do the Wakanda dance all the time, so why not be Batman as well?
Well, possibly. But yeah, it was Batman Day yesterday. I don't really know what that was about.
It's just something promoted by the DC Comics, and then they have these comics that are given away free at certain comic shops and everything like that.
Like free comic book day.
Yeah, free comic, but it's just essentially Batman, and they give them out and stuff like that. It's kind of a day that they picked, I guess. I don't think it's any historical reference to anything.
Nothing beats the 60s Batman for me.
Yeah, that's the one I started with too.
Always loved it.
Except for the comics, of course.
Anyway, you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And in this part, we're going to bring you audio from Don Garber, MLS Commissioner. He was in Vancouver Friday and Saturday. Spoke to media training on Friday. Whitecaps only put 9 minutes of the audio up, so we have the full 18 minutes, including a little bit of fun towards the end. You'll hear that when we get to that. But obviously, if we keep the Batman theme going, if Don Garber was a character in the Batman universe, you're a big fan of all this, who would he be, Steve?
I thought about this, and I think I'm going to go with Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, the guy that made Batman.
Yeah, well, he's the demon.
Kinda.
No, in the movies, yes, but not really. But he's basically he's a villain who thinks is doing right by the world.
Oh,
and is willing to do it by any means necessary.
Ah,
and he's obviously head of the assassins. I can't remember what they call him. He's called the Demon Head, basically, and he's basically in charge of a massive group that's been going on forever. He never dies; he's almost immortal. And it seems like Don Garber never goes away either. He's always looks like he's always going to be the commissioner. So
you're
it kind of
he
fits.
looks like a vampire. Is what you're saying?
Ra's al Ghul's not a vampire.
No, but
No,
yeah. I thought you'd have gone for Two-Face.
Well, that's the easy one. You can call anybody.
Well,
Two-Face.
Commissioner Gordon was the easy one.
Oh yeah, well,
I guess, but
Commissioner Gordon was an honorable man.
So who would be Robin?
Of what? From where?
Anywhere?
I don't know.
In MLS Batman universe.
I don't know. Maybe Teixeira, because he's short as Robin would be as a 14-year-old.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of the Batman talk. Let's just get straight into Don Garber. A lot of good stuff covered here. Some of the really meaty stuff was the stuff that wasn't up on the Whitecaps website. But as I said, we'll bring that for you now. So enjoy.
We are the League.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Nice. A little bit of a long flight from Orlando yesterday. But it actually has me live firsthand and even sympathize the challenges of being in this part of North America and having to travel throughout the United States and Canada to play games.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're mindful of that and recognize how hard it is on players. In this case, going 60,000 miles a year. But it's just one of the challenges of building soccer in North America.
What do you think of the facility here?
Oh, it's fantastic. I walking around with Rachel and Greg and Jeff. This has now become sort of table stakes for Major League Soccer. Think about where we were when the league was founded, and for really the first 10 or 15 years, trying to beg, borrow, and steal, training our players in a professional environment, and now every club is building a facility like this that fits the character of their brand and the competitive technical philosophy of the club. And this is a wonderful one. It's such a great part of town and very, very thoughtful, which doesn't surprise me because this club has been very thoughtful about training players way before they were in Major League Soccer.
What does the Alphonso Davies transfer say about MLS and this club?
Well, I think first let's start and say what it says about the club. As I said earlier, when I first met Greg and Jeff, they were already in the player development business, both on the men's side and the women's side, more so than any other professional soccer team in the United States and Canada. And to finally have a great story to tell, and one that really has been one of the great soccer stories in the world, is really rewarding. It says a lot about the club's ambition. It says a lot about the potential for developing players here in Canada. And it says a lot about Alphonso Davies. I met him during the World Cup bid process and met him at our All-Star game, having made that selection. And he's just a wonderful young man. And I'm really happy for him, pleased for his family, and really happy for the Whitecaps.
Obviously, we get to see Alphonso, and we're kind of in this kind of media hype around him all the time. But are these kind of Alphonso Davies tidal waves sensed around the MLS and other fans in other markets as well?
Oh, absolutely. He is one of the great soccer stories, not just in MLS, but it's one of the great soccer stories in the global game. You have a kid that's getting a record transfer fee associated with him and being developed in Major League Soccer, has the rest of the world looking and saying, the league is on the rise. And getting the game right needs to be taken seriously. And that's both a blessing and a curse, because the tidal wave has already been coming to North America to try to have the international clubs trying to mine all sorts of opportunity for themselves. And I think that box is going to be opened up a little bit wider.
How pleased are you with the competitive balance right now, especially out west here with the playoff races, including the game you'll see tomorrow night, to
Vancouver, Seattle. That
this is part of the core identity of Major League Soccer. I think it's one of the core identities of the North American major leagues. We're very focused on competitive balance. So even with the influx of TAM money and discretionary TAM money, those programs only happen after we've done deep analysis on what impact that's going to have on competitive balance. And as we have some clubs spending significantly more than others, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to deliver competitive success. And while injuries play into some of the challenges that are happening in Toronto, for example, you can't buy a championship in Major League Soccer. So that's going to continue to be a part of the core identity of our league.
There have been a lot of big name additions to the league, obviously someone like Zlatan. Bob Linaduzzi was on the radio here recently talking about the need to maybe mandate that these big name players play in turf, because a lot of them don't come up and play here. For the growth of the game and getting the public on board, is there anything you can do about that?
I think that's a smart move, frankly. I don't know that we'll be able to achieve that, but I'm as frustrated as fans are when we sign a player and pay him a lot of money and have him decide where and when he's going to play. That would never happen in another league, and I know there are different environments that players are playing in when they're playing in the Champions League. And my guess is that in a Champions League game, some of these players, even if it was on turf, would be playing in that. So we have not yet thought about mandating that. It's very difficult to mandate those sort of things because you have injuries and all sorts of other things that come into play. But I am as frustrated as others when we don't have players that are playing in every game when they're not injured.
I want to talk to you about the CONCACAF Champions League schedule and how sometimes there can be kind of a tournament hangover at the beginning of the MLS season. Is there anything that can be done to help teams in this league through that?
Yeah, so CONCACAF has made lots of changes. We're in much better shape now than we were a number of years ago. Remember, we're playing in an environment where we're the only league that has the schedule that we do. So it's very difficult to get the rest of the CONCACAF region to adapt to us. But then again, the Champions League is an important product and a valuable asset for CONCACAF, and they know that if we're not at full strength, it's not going to be a good tournament, or as good a tournament as it could be. Last year, we were really proud. I mean, what a great way to start the year, and I hope that we're able to continue to be competitive. We want to win the Champions League. I think until we start winning it regularly, we won't satisfy our goals, being one of the top leagues in the world. Certainly, we've got to be one of the top leagues in North America first. So I'm not sure there's short-term changes, but mid-term and long-term, I think we're all committed to the same thing.
The Champions League has got the potential to be such a great competition. What do you think it's going to take to get the fans to kind of appreciate it a bit more? Because some of the attendances have been quite poor.
Well, the attendances this past year, certainly at the latter stages, were pretty good. We had record crowds for that tournament in the early part of the year, and certainly as we were playing in the finals. I thought the television ratings for the final with America and Toronto were fantastic, both in Mexico and here in the United States. These things take time. We have not been as competitive in it as we need to be, and as we continue to be more competitive, I think you'll start seeing increased relevance and higher attendances. I think a good analogy is the U.S. Open Cup. There were many, many years, my 19th season, there were times when the U.S. Open was, you'd have a couple of thousand people going to games. Now that tournament has really earned, its place in the soccer landscape in the United States, more and more people are watching on television, more and more people going to the games. So we're all committed to the same thing. I think it's going to get better.
Now, Vancouver's been in the league for 8 years now.
That's amazing, isn't it?
We've never hosted the All-Star game here. Yeah. No Canadian clubs ever hosted the draft. Is that a situation you see possibly changing for the city soon?
Well, I'll start with the draft. It's an interesting idea. It's not something we ever contemplated. The draft has always been associated with the National Soccer Coaches Association convention. It's a place in the United States where thousands and thousands of coaches, even from Canada, come around, and we've always connected our draft to it. We've contemplated having the draft be more standalone, and I think if that ever happens, there's no reason why it wouldn't be great to have it up here in Canada, and I think appropriate as a way to recognize where the sport is. On the All-Star game, we made a commitment to Vancouver when they came in. And I think the time is just whenever they're ready for it, and whenever there's enough of energy with the league to bring a an All-Star game up here at a time when recognizing we would have a national broadcaster in the U.S. that would not have one part of the audience. So it's just a matter of time. We're going to be here for a while. We just announced, as you know, the All-Star game in Orlando yesterday. But Vancouver, they're entitled to a game, and they'll get one when we're ready for it, and they're ready for it.
You had a bit of an adventure getting here.
I did, man.
Travel is an issue probably felt a little more keenly in Vancouver than anywhere else. Is there any thought at the league level of making travel a little more efficient?
Well, if that's a question about charters, then the answer to that is yes. I think we've been very mindful of managing our league and our expenses in accordance with our revenues, and I think that's part of why we're going into year 24 next year and bigger and stronger than ever before. But I think the time is coming where we do need to start looking more at charters, particularly for those clubs that are geographically further away from their regular competitors than perhaps they might be in the Northeast. But it needs to happen in the right way. I worry more about thinking we've cracked the code for this sport than I worry about the day-to-day challenges. So in time, I think you'll see more charters, but I don't think we'll ever be in a situation where a guy's going to be buying big planes and traveling the way the other leagues do, at least not in my tenure.
What do you think the biggest issue is facing the league right now?
It's managing growth, which is something that is fun to say. It used to be sort of figuring out how we could be viable. And now it's, with all the momentum that we have, how do we ensure that we're making the right decisions? Do we invest money in charters? Do we invest more money in academies? Do we put more money into the TAM program? Do we put more money into marketing or building, facilities at our clubs? Because it's all paid for by our owners. And we're getting more and more engaged in trying to figure out how do we spend our resources in a way that can move the league forward, even if it's incrementally year after year. I'd say not as a challenge, but as an opportunity. It shouldn't be lost on anybody, particularly up here in Canada. We have this incredible opportunity to manage the growth of our business over an 8-year defined period of time, with the World Cup coming, 6. Companies never have an opportunity to know where they'll be 8 years from now. Well, we know where we'll be. We'll have the world's game here in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and we're all together trying to build a game in North America, and we've got to have an 8-year plan. We'll start on that now. We haven't started it yet. We've got a little bit of time, but that's a major priority for the league and for the CSA, for U.S. soccer, et cetera.
How pleased with the reach and pace in which this league is growing? The expansion cities, is it Miami, Cincinnati, Nashville? Are you hearing a kind of a groundswell of excitement
there
for
is an
Nashville?
Amazing excitement with our league overall and certainly in our new markets. But look what we are here. I'm going to go to the game on Saturday night. It's going to have 30,000 people there. Yeah. And that gives me as much pride as when we have sellouts in a new team in Los Angeles. But when you go to these new markets, the thing that strikes me the most is I was in Nashville earlier this week. The total relevance of these clubs in cities where the game doesn't have deep roots. So we were hosted by the governor of the state of Tennessee and had lunch with the mayor and his city council. And you've got major corporation CEOs that are coming to these events because they just want to be a part of the MLS excitement in the city of Nashville. We're feeling the same in Cincinnati. That club's going to launch next year in MLS, and there's averaging over 20,000 fans a game already. So there is a lot of momentum. I think that momentum needs to be managed, to the question you asked. How do you manage all that excitement and opportunity?
There's so many strong markets as well wanting to join the league. Obviously spots are limited right now. How do you satisfy that demand without maybe watering down especially the domestic playing pool?
It's a good question, and all leagues are thinking about this every day. I'll talk about it overall. We're fortunate to be a business that's in the global market, so there is a global pool of players. That allows us to ensure that our product overall is not diluted. And our fans have told us, they want to see Alfonso, but they also want to see Kendall Watson. And particularly here in Canada, where you have a very sophisticated soccer audience, high quality of product on the field matters first. but we have an obligation to our various countries, both the U.S. Soccer and the Canadian Soccer Association, to develop players for our national team. And we've got to figure out how those two marry with each other and how we're satisfying both of those objectives. I don't think of it as an issue as much of dilution, having an impact on the domestic player. I think of it as, as we have more and more sophisticated fans, how do we ensure that our domestic players have an opportunity to play? And that has nothing to do with expansion. Almost argue that expansion would give them more opportunities. But these are things that leagues sit down, and Greg is the co-chair of Greg Kerfoot of our product strategy committee. We're talking about that stuff all the time.
How big do you see this league realistically getting?
Well, it's certainly going to be at 28, and that's the limit that we've established for ourselves. We have 2 more teams to go. We've got to be able to take a step back and onboard all of those teams and ensure that they have the success that the teams have had when they've come into Major League Soccer. But, life's a long time. I don't know if you guys spend time with Gary Bettman. I think if you asked him 10 years ago whether we'd have a team in Seattle or a team in Las Vegas, he'd probably say no. So I have no view really as to how big the league would be at a time when I'll be long out as commissioner of the league.
You talk as well about developing domestic players here and also in the States. The Canadian Premier League's obviously launching next season. Do you view them as a rival or a partner that you can work with?
Well, they're absolutely not a rival. I don't think they're positioning themselves in terms of the level of that league as a rival. I think that Canada has to, as a country, continue to develop players. We have 3 teams that are investing tens of millions of dollars in each of our respective markets to do that, and we see the byproduct of that with some of the great players that have come out of our academies. But the CPL is going to be good for Canadian soccer, and at the level that they're at, it's not something that concerns me at all.
Which were those teams you were referencing there that were investing money in there?
Well, just here in Canada, you have Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto. Massive amounts of money. I mean, this facility here was really expensive, and that doesn't even speak to the many millions of dollars that they're spending on operating their academies, and that shouldn't be lost on anybody who loves the game here. And we should not be dismissive of the tens of millions of dollars that are being invested annually by our 3 clubs on their facilities and player development, and the people that love the game here should be thinking about what positive impact that's had on the Canadian national team. So I think the future is bright for soccer in Canada, and more professional teams is good for the game.
Now, the schedule's obviously always a big talking point. Have you had thoughts about maybe trying to shorten the playoffs, maybe even have it wrapped up before the international break?
Yeah, listen, if we could wave a magic wand, we would do that, right?
Hi, I'm Jay Nolly, and that was magic.
Because obviously the FIFA break doesn't help. But I've learned over all these years that life's a long time. I mean, I think we will continue to evolve our league and be able to have the opportunity to play around with our playing schedule, with the support of our fans and the facilities that we're building and the expansion of our league in warmer markets to be able to manage something that might look a little bit different than it does today. But I don't see anything in the super short term that will change.
What about the 2-legged playoffs? I know it's not always ideal. We saw Vancouver-Seattle last year. It wasn't a great playoff game. Is there thoughts of maybe going to just a straight knockout game?
There's two really distinct points of view on that. There are those that think it would be fantastic, and there are those who think it's not fair to the home crowd home fans to not be able to host a playoff game. Again, we look at it all the time. I don't know how it ultimately ends up, but at some point maybe we should even play around with it, because we are a big event continent here, and the idea of one and done probably could attract a lot of attention, but we'll have to see.
But when you look back at your own time as commissioner of the league,
you want to come take a ride with me?
No one else is asking anything. So, when you look back at your own time as commissioner of the league, what's the biggest or the proudest thing that you take out of it so far?
It depends on where I am each day, but like today's a proud day, and I'm not just saying that because I'm here in Vancouver. When I walk into bricks and mortar and I see the significant foundations and permanence that our owners have put into our league with a facility like this, it gives me enormous pride. And people shouldn't take that for granted. Now, this is not something that has a great financial return, but it speaks to the commitment of owners and also speaks to their belief in the long-term project that we have. There was so many things that make me happy today walking through here. I was really, really proud and impressed with the commitment that ownership has put into the city and into our league and this community.
Thank you.
Great, thanks everybody.
We'll talk more in the car. Don Garber there, talking about all things MLS, and had a couple
How was
of
the car
tweets
ride
in.
over?
It was good. We nearly actually went to the toilet together yesterday.
Oh.
That's a story I'll say for the 300th episode, possibly. I got a couple of tweets in from Angus Walker, who said in the Batman universe, Don Garber would be an evil Robin because he's Robin Columbus of their team.
I get it, yeah.
I was waiting for a bigger laugh.
Sorry.
I thought that was really funny.
Sorry, I was concentrating on something else.
He also said he likes how Don said last year's CONCACAF Champions League was great, because that's obviously when the Caps were in it.
There is, at one point, an evil Robin. He's called Red Hood.
Oh.
Because Robin, the one that died when they had people phone in to decide whether this Robin died?
No.
Okay, there was one point they had people phone in to decide whether the Joker killed this Robin in the next episode or he stayed alive. And everybody voted for him to die. And eventually he came back out from the dead and became the Red Hood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about what Garber said at the end of this part and then into the next part. But, I mean, he wasn't really in Vancouver for any real reason. He's just kind of doing the rounds. He was in Orlando announcing the All-Star game. Obviously, I then asked him why we've never had one here.
Yeah, makes sense. And it was a really weird answer.
Yeah, there's been a commitment made. We are allowed to have one. We're entitled to one. But it's only when the time is right for both the league and us.
And
then
said about
something about weird TV things.
Yeah, I did. TSN wasn't interested or something?
Well, it's as if anything's shown in Canada, folk in the States won't watch it. It's the impression that I got.
There's something, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but if something is... the American people broadcast something from Canada or something like outside the US, they don't get the ratings or something like that. It's something weird, and I don't know exactly what that
Toronto's hosted the All-Star game.
Yeah.
The draft's never been held here, and I don't think it should be tied in with the coaches' convention. I think it should be a standalone thing.
It's a weird thing that he even tied it in with that.
Like, I know folk don't like the draft, and folk don't like the All-Star game. I don't like the All-Star game. I don't watch the All-Star game.
Yeah.
If an All-Star game was here, though...
Maybe that's why it's not here.
I would watch it.
Yeah.
I'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it seems like a good week, and it's a good week of activities. But would designated players turn up and play on our turf?
Maybe they
don't turn and play up on anything else.
Maybe they could put special grass in for that game.
Maybe. He did talk about that, and like Bobby had talked about it on the Sekeres and Price show, about maybe not mandate, because that is tough to do, but try and put pressure on these big name players to come and play games. It doesn't do the league great. I'm happy when they don't, because it means we're facing a weaker team.
For sure.
But if you are wanting to grow the league, you need guys like Zlatan, Thierry Henry to come and play places like this.
But there's been a big gap in from what players aren't playing, because you said Thierry Henry, Zlatan. There hasn't been that many players other than that.
Two big names.
Yeah, but David Villa, he come and plays.
Full credit to him. Kaká didn't. I think.
I can't remember if he did.
I don't think he
Lampard did. Pirlo did. So there are players that out there that do come and play on the turf. Obviously, the biggest names didn't. We'll see next year if Rooney does. Yeah, Rooney would come here next year. So we'll see if that happens.
I thought it was interesting as well. I only saw this today when I was watching the game back, but they had Garber on the halftime of the show yesterday.
Yeah.
And 15-minute halftime, they had Garber on for less than 2 minutes. They showed Stefan Marinovic and Jake Nowinski at the Super Dogs at the P&E for longer than they had Garber on talking.
But that's that's a sponsor thing. Obviously, they needed they needed Garber with a sponsor badge or something on his front.
I mean, it's great. TSN get 2 minutes, we get 18.
Yeah.
I think that was good. But there was a lot of talk. He was asked about Fonzie, and he said it's great for the league. Can or should MLS take any credit for Fonzie? I think
Not really.
No, nothing at all.
Well, if you want to say the Whitecaps are an MLS team, they would.
Nothing to do with the league.
It's 6 degrees of separation or whatever you want to say. It's quite a bit.
But there's some other things that you talked about that we're going to talk about in the next part, and we'll be back with that after this.
Hey, it's Stefan Runovic, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, broadcasting on 101.9 FM. That was Splodginess Abounds there with Poison Babies versus Batman from 1981. One of my all-time favourite punk bands there. Some great stuff from the Splodge. Should play more of those actually as we move forward. So, part 4. We're going to continue the Batman theme and Commissioner Garber. And just some of the things that he talked about there just before the break. One thing we talked about was the growth of the league. Should it just be set at 28? You don't want to oversaturate it by just adding teams left, right, and centre.
And I think you made a good point about the domestic part of it.
Yeah.
Would be saturated.
I think it would get watered down.
Because there's plenty of international players they'd be able to find.
Yeah. But they want to grow it, and not for Canada. They want to grow the American game, which is basically, no matter what else they say, that is what it's there for.
I still get. I think I don't know if we talked about it on air or off air, but I think looking back on it, they wish they hadn't given Vancouver and Montreal their teams and kept it for. I don't think they realized how much interest there would have been in MLS.
Yeah, but we do draw well here.
We do draw well, but it's Canadian money.
He was very impressed. Yeah, he was very impressed by the training facility and everything to do with that.
Yeah,
but you've got these markets. I hate using market as a word, but it's basically that's what it is. You've got these cities. Great markets, and like Cincinnati's in, that's right. You've got, we won't go through them all, but there's Detroit, there's so many, St. Louis and Sacramento, San Diego. There's more than the 2 spots that's available.
Yeah,
and I think if there's a really strong market that are drawing crowds, Phoenix, and they want to get a team, but they can't get in, what happens to that marketplace? Are they going to just be happy in USL? I am genuinely worried that we'll see more circumstances like Columbus, where an owner's going to think, okay, well, I don't know if you saw the Chicago game today. There was nobody at that game. Yeah. That was a really crap crowd. But you're going to have some teams that their owners at some point might think, you know what, we could move this team to a better market.
Yeah, for sure. And there could be instances, and this would be the worst, well, I don't know, worst case, depending on where you sit with everything. We talked about it before. Vancouver, like, they could sell their rights, their MLS rights, and then join the CPL down the road. I don't think it would happen right away. Maybe 10, 15 years down the road, possibly.
Definitely a possibility, depending on how the CPL does.
And then Vancouver would, the ownership there would gain, like, I guarantee it would be like in the maybe 300-400 million at least.
Yeah, because they got in for 35.
Yeah, so you imagine that kind of profit.
150 to 200 now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is
fantastic. But 10, 15 years down the road, it could be up to 300 or 400 at that point.
I mean, talking to the CPL as well, I was really curious what his take would be on it. And I was quite surprised when he said they are absolutely not a rival.
Because I think they don't deem it a rival for the U.S. teams. Obviously, it would be a little bit of a rival for Canadian teams.
But he doesn't even see that.
But not at this point, because I think because of the fact that it's so early, I think if you ask the question, do you consider them a rivals down the road? Maybe he would have had a different idea.
I don't know that he would.
I think
he seems to think they don't want to operate at that level. My understanding is they do.
Yes, eventually, yes. I don't think they're going to shoot for it right away, but eventually they're like MLS would be in 95 or 96 where they were then.
So I want to ask David Clanigan or Paul Byrne.
Yeah.
the next time I speak to him, just to see what their take is on that.
Yeah.
And then the schedule in the playoffs. The international break does kill the momentum or the interest that the fans have, I think, in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's very rare that we get past the international
because you lose
break.
track, especially if your team's not in it.
Yeah.
You completely lose track. Like I remember at one point you were saying, I called you up randomly and I said, we were going to talk about the upcoming show, and you said, I'm just watching the game. I go, what game? And you lose track of where the playoffs are.
I mean, it kills it so much.
Because they schedule it differently too. It's not just on a Saturday, Sunday or something like that. They'll throw a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Monday, depending on when the stadium is available, and that's the problem.
Well, December as well for the MLS Cup's not ideal either.
No, it's
but
not.
They have to have it then because of the break. But I think there is ways round it, and I think one of the things I said about the two-legged games, I would be fine to go to one-legged games because it makes your regular season. I've talked before about the Supporters' Shield means bugger all.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
it gives more importance to the regular season if you do that.
You're being rewarded for a good regular season, so I have no issue at all with it going to a straight knockout.
And when they get to 28 teams, I'm almost sure they'll expand the playoff amount of teams going to the playoff, at least to 7.
Yeah.
So if you think of it, 7 teams in the playoffs,
8 would make sense. But
but they'll go 7. Maybe do half the teams in the playoffs, half teams out, and you'll do where 2 plays 8, like the 2 through 7 play, and then the remaining 3 teams, the top team gets a bye, right?
I mean,
and then
who knows?
You could do
could
like
even
that.
end up with 3 conferences as well.
Yeah.
Once it gets into 28.
And honestly, they
27.
need to do more of playing these games all on the same day too, because you get that interest of you know how decision day is, where you get all these games, and you could have that in the playoffs too. Because honestly, a person in Columbus might not be interested in watching a game of RSL. So why not have them happening at the same time, or just a little bit overlap, so you kind of can keep track and give people a chance to look into the other games.
So I mean that was some of the stuff that Don Garber said, and like for what you might feel about him and stuff. One thing I will say is he does seem to be more readily available to talk to media than some of the other commissioners from the other big leagues in North America. And I do respect him from that. He might give answers that you feel is a little bit
pandering. Yeah,
pandering for the local market. And he kind of said that in his last question. What's your proudest achievement? Well, it depends where I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
This isn't giving it up right off the bat.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he does talk, and he has grown the league. I just don't know that he is the person that to take it to the next level. It might be better to have some fresh blood in there, but I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon, but we'll see. But he is overseeing a very exciting MLS 21st season, I think it is this year.
And the stretch run is a lot of teams in it right now.
Caps are 7th. We'll do our sort of Western review quickly just to finish this part off. The Caps are 7th.
Yeah.
4 points now out the playoff places, behind their 2 Cascadian rivals who are 5th and 6th. Seattle 5th, Portland are 6th. Seattle have a game in hand. RSL.
Let's not consider Seattle at this point. They're way ahead at this point.
They're going for top 2 right now. RSL are 4th, 5 points ahead of us, with a mixed run in. There's some tough games in there, and they've played an extra game. So we've got, if we win our game in hand, there's 2 points in it.
Yeah, and their next 2 games are away to Atlanta and away to Sporting
KC, and then they've also got Portland home and away, who's going to be fighting for everything. So
Exactly.
someone's going to drop points there.
And it would be wicked if both of them just draw those 2 games.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Of course, we then have to get the job done, going back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah, it means nothing if the Whitecaps don't do anything at this point.
I mean, you've said for weeks that you feel RSL is the team to catch.
Based on the schedule.
Yeah, it's now kind of looking that way.
Because they drop... Oh, we'll talk about that soon.
Well, it was a weird week for results, really. It went so much in the Whitecaps' favour, and then we just couldn't take advantage, which I think just adds to the frustration from Saturday night. Looking at the Western teams, the action kicked off with Colorado and Atlanta. There's no interest in it for us. Colorado's long gone.
Yeah.
Atlanta, 3-0 winners.
But they've almost eliminated us mathematically from...
No, we can still win the Supporters' Shield.
But they've almost eliminated us.
They need 1 more point.
Yes, and then we're out.
But we can still win the Supporters' Shield, Steve. Believe. Yeah, maybe not.
No.
TFC and the LA Galaxy. Now, this was an absolute cracker. 5-3 final. TFC were 3 up by the 36th minute. They looked home and dry, coasting. Then Zlatan got his 500th goal. Beautiful.
Oh, it's a fantastic goal. But you look at the goal, you say, wow, that's a goal. But then you think it's Zlatan. It's something you expect.
You also think, what was the keeper doing?
Exactly.
How did the keeper even let that in?
But I don't think he was expecting that to happen.
No.
That's the thing about Zlatan. He does these goals and you don't expect it. That's why it makes the goalkeeper even look worse.
He got a bit of a standing ovation.
For the goal? I didn't notice that.
And
Okay.
he said afterwards when he was asked about
Yeah,
the
I
home
saw
fans,
that, yeah.
he made a comment about, it wouldn't be the first away ground where the fans have applauded me.
Yeah.
He was superb after the game, but we'll come to that.
I think he talked about Bradley too or something.
Yes. By the 58th minute, it was 3-3.
Yeah.
TFC shat the bed. But they recovered. They cleaned the sheets up. They put down the plastic padding. And the last 15 minutes, goals from Osorio and Chapman.
Couple
gave them
Canadians.
Three points.
Yeah.
Basically ending LA's playoff hopes. TFC are now 9th in the East. 9 points behind Montreal. They've got a game in hand. And Montreal's 6th.
Well,
but I think they're done.
Yeah, well, they don't have, I don't think a turkey's chance. A turkey has a better chance than Thanksgiving. Oh,
yeah.
did I bring something up?
We'll come to that.
Oh, okay.
But I think they're done.
Yeah,
because they need a lot of help from teams above them, and that's not going to happen. But yeah, the post game stuff between Zlatan. Well, actually, it was towards the end of the game between Zlatan and Bradley. They squared up after a tackle Boateng made. Bradley was right in the referee's face, looking for cards, as he does.
Yeah, constantly.
As he constantly does. And Zlatan just got right in between them, and they were squaring off and chirping at each other. And then afterwards, Zlatan was asked about it, and he went off on Bradley. It was fantastic. Said he likes to think of himself as a professor of soccer.
Yeah.
I have more goals and games than he's played in.
Yeah.
And basically said he needs to learn from me and basically listen to and do what Zlatan does. Absolutely fantastic. But LA, that's the big talking point for us. They're 6 points out the playoffs now. And they've played a game more than us. They're below us. They're done. They're totally done. They're rebuilding. And they've got rid of the Gobbler.
Yeah, and the thing is that what really killed them was Montreal winning in Philadelphia yesterday. I think they were down 1-0 and they went on to come back and beat them 4-1, so that was a huge game for them.
But Dom Kinnear, interim manager for LA for the rest of the year. I don't think he is going to be the guy that leads them next year, barring them winning out.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happen. Dallas Columbus going from a great game between TFC and LA Galaxy
to nothing.
To a 0-0 draw.
Yeah.
Between our opponents next week, FC Dallas. Now, not a lot to see in the game. The keepers between them made 3 saves. That's how much action it was. Dallas, though, dropped to second now in the West. They've only got 1 win in their last 4, 2 wins in their last 7. It feels like this is a good time to get them.
Yeah,
and they don't do well here.
No, and I mentioned that they seem to, like, obviously this year it hasn't affected them because they probably won more in the first half of the year than they usually do, but they were able to build up enough points that it's not going to hurt them for the playoffs. But once again, they start slipping in the second half of the season. It seems a consistent thing with them.
But I mean, we've got to win next week, or that is it.
It's done. Yeah.
Got to win at home against a team that's not doing that well. Everything's on the line. You fall more than 4 points off, and we'll be doing our end of season show.
No,
and
for
our
sure.
300 show in the same show.
I still think they have a chance, but if they lose next week, and it doesn't make a difference who RSL's playing down the stretch, it's done at that point.
Yeah, I think so. Houston and Portland. Now, this was one of the 2 big results that went in the Whitecaps' favour. Absolute shocker for me.
Even if it's in Texas. It's in Texas, but still.
Even so.
Yeah.
It could have been a great result. Maybe it will be a great result for the Whitecaps. Should have been, whatever. Houston were winless in 10 going into this.
That was surprising too. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, they've been on a really bad run. Yeah. And they went 1-0 down after an own goal 9 minutes in by Fuen Mayor.
Well, you got to remember that they were dealing with a lot of red cards here and there. They were like, there was a stretch
in one game or something.
Yeah, and there was other games where they kept getting red cards too. So their lineup was all over the place.
But yeah, bam. Dynamo hit back 4 unanswered goals, winning 4-1. Albert Elise, brace for Manotis. Fuen Mayor puts one in the right net.
Yeah.
It ended a 3-match unbeaten run for Portland. Now, I had a look at Portland's season on the results map. They have been so streaky. 5 winless games to start the season. Then they went unbeaten in 15. Then they had 4 straight losses. then 3 undefeated.
Yeah.
Is this going to kickstart another streak? We could do with it.
Maybe a short one, yeah, it could be. I don't know who their next opponent is, but it could
I don't know. And then you've got RSL coming up for them as well.
The thing is, when I was watching the highlights on this one, I saw Elise, and obviously we've seen it before, but if they can, because they're going to have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 750,000 in GAM from the Alphonso Davies thing, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to go after him?
See, there's a lot of guys in the league I would want to go after, but it's not easy to do these interleague transfers. It's getting more and more, though.
It is, because Justin Merrim, Dom Dwyer, you got those ones. I think Houston could use the money because they always
we could do with someone that's done it and proven it in the
MLS,
league, like Kai Kamara.
Yeah, so that's why I think at least would be a nice...
I'd love him here.
He's really crafty down that wing, and I don't know how what he compares to within for Davies, because I don't watch Elise's that much, but in the little bit I've seen him, I think he can kind of keep up with the same things that Davies offered.
This is something we'll do in the off season. We'll have a fantasy week where we'll try and pick what players and other teams would like to,
no matter what the
bids
cost
for. Yeah, cost is not important. We're loaded now
in fantasy, especially.
Yeah, my fantasies, I've got a lot of money. I won't tell you how I spend it, but Rose McIver's in a lot of them.
Oh,
as well.
see, I knew that was
anyway. RSL in Minnesota was the other good result that finished 1-1. Could have been even better. We'll come to that, but RSL looked home and dry. 1 up in 11 minutes from Krylach.
I remember they've been scoring at will.
Yeah.
So when you score in the 11th minute, you're thinking that's going to just keep coming at this point.
But from nowhere, a late surge by Minnesota grabbed a point, nearly all 3. Miguel Ibarra fired it in and equalised in the 84th minute. Nice little chip. He was in so much space in the middle of the box. I don't know. It was like Whitecaps-esque defending. I don't know what RSL were thinking.
I think it was actually more like Minnesota-type defending. Minnesota's the one that seems to have with separation.
Then Ibarra thought he'd hit the winner. It was a great strike, really tight angle at the near post, but then it was reviewed in VAR, and Darwin Quintero was ruled offside when he played the ball over his head, which was a nice pass as well. It was a good result, a draw. RSL, they're unbeaten in 4. 3 of them are wins. They've just got 1 loss in the last 9, 2 in the last 12. And although we keep saying we feel they're the team that we can catch, they're not exactly showing a lot of signs that they're faltering, though. So that is a worry I have.
Yeah, wait till they arrive in Atlanta and see how they feel then. That's going to change a lot of things.
If they take anything from those 2 away games,
then it's over again.
I think we're definitely done.
Yeah.
Last 2 games we'll just quickly go through. LAFC and the New England Revs. I've moved them. I'm doing my Columbus. 1-1. 2 points dropped for LA, which doesn't affect us too much, really, but they are unbeaten in 5. Urena gave LA the lead. Brandon Bai tied it up. LAFC's third now.
New England had a chance to win this too. They had a number of chances.
At the start of the second half, they should have taken the lead.
Yep.
7 ahead of us. Barring an absolute implosion.
Yeah, I don't see them dropping at this point.
And another team that's well away, and they're now top of the West, is SKC, who won 5-1 in San Jose. There was no fouls in the first half. That was one of the unusual stats. That sounds like a fun competitive game from
I think
San Jose.
San Jose was just like...
Did they even get the ball?
Maybe they were on the thing, no fouls. Maybe they're trying to do what Senegal didn't do and try to get that fair play trophy.
KC rested some guys as well. Johnny Russell was on the bench.
Yeah.
Wando started, but didn't get a goal.
No. It was Hussein scored for them.
Yeah. And it was a breeze for KC. So, I mean, that's all we need to say. A couple of big midweek matches, though, are coming up with our Cascadian rivals. They're both at home, though.
Yep.
Portland are hosting Columbus. I fancy Columbus in that one.
Columbus, look what they did. They went to Dallas and they picked up a draw.
Well, at least they even get a point, yeah. And then Seattle are hosting Philly as well. But as you said, we can forget about Seattle.
No, but I do think that Philly has a chance to break that unbeaten. I know they lost to Montreal, but they are a team that you never know what's going to happen with them. They can come in and they can surprise a lot of people.
Just want to finish this section just by reading a tweet that we've got in from friend of the show, Greg Petrie. I've also got one here from Whitecap Scarf. He says, we talked in the first part about it's the players on the pitch. He says it is the players when they are in the field, like we said. But the mistakes this Whitecaps team makes are the same mistakes season after season. It's on Robbo and the coaching staff. Robbo wants them to play the way that they play. He says Robbo needs to go, and he has felt like that from a while. And a tweet from Greg Petrie at Our Dumb World says, If it's basically 6 cup games now, I look forward to Robinson playing for 3 scoreless draws at home and getting embarrassed on the road.
Oh, that's the scary part about that. You say that right there.
So there's a good way to end that. And we'll be back with my favourite part of the show, Wavelength, but don't turn off after this.
Hi, I'm Jordan Much, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
The time has come to awaken him. I call upon the ancient lords of the underworld to bring forth this beast and awaken. Take the land that must be taken. Awaken. Devour world, spite forsaken. Rise up your thou that here on sleep. Break forth from your grave eternally. I command you to rise.
Rise. That's what the Whitecaps need to do for the last 6 games of this season.
Oh, for sure.
That was Bat Metal Forever.
Yeah. It's actually a song by a group. I can't remember the name of the group. Do you recall?
No, we should find
we'll
that
find
out.
that out later. But it's basically, I found this on YouTube a couple of years ago. There's actually a Bat Metal and then a Bat Metal, what was it? Returns, I think it is.
Yeah.
And these are
fun videos to go with it.
This is basically music that was created by a group, and then these animators made it incorporated with Batman. And the original 2 songs weren't anything to do with Batman, but I think this one might have been because it was the popularity. So you can definitely search for that Bat Metal Returns, Bat Metal Forever. It's not safe for work. So do not watch this at work.
Well.
Do not watch this around kids. Come on,
I would
man.
watch it around kids.
The people that
I don't have kids.
So you wouldn't care.
I would watch it around your kids.
If you I won't let them watch this yet.
I'll watch it around Zach's kids then.
if you're a parent, do not let your kids watch this.
Declan Deasy, that if Joe wants me to babysit, Declan will be watching those. It's cartoons, man. It's fun.
Yeah, but what happens to those cartoon characters?
It's an education.
Like SpongeBob does not take it well.
No. Well, depends how you want to look at that. Anyway, let's just move on. You are listening to part 5 of the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. Zach has just texted to say I'm not allowed around his kids. So hopefully that woke everyone up just after 11 o'clock Sunday night, Monday morning. This will definitely wake you up. It's time for my favourite part of the show. It's Wavelength time. And we're going back to 2009. Kind of a Welsh band, kind of an English band, Los Campesinos.
Who were they capped for?
Well, they're all English, but they met at Cardiff University.
Oh, okay.
So they could probably play for both.
Either one.
Yeah. But the lead singer, Gareth Campesinos, is a big soccer fan. He's also a director of Welton FC, a non-league club as well. They have a lot of football references in their songs. We haven't really used them yet because the songs aren't really about football, but there is a lot of references in the songs. So when we run out of Wavelength, we'll probably go with that. But this one is about that. I'm going to explain a little bit just before we play it because you might not make the lyrics out. It's about when he was 17 years old. He thought he was a good enough footballer that he could still play at international level, but not for England. So he thought if him and his girlfriend moved to Malta, they could get Maltese citizenship and make the Maltese national team. So this is his story about that. This is called Plan A.
Was it weird? Did it take a bad reflection? And
Los Campesinos there with Plan A. You may not have made the lyrics out. I'll just read you a bit from the second verse because I love this. I'm called up to the Maltese national team. My vision is impeccable. My first touch is obscene. A World Cup qualifier finds me 50, 40, 30 yards from goal. A late sub on in an off the striker role. Was it the wind? Did it take a bad deflection?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just love that song.
And just to talk about the bat metal.
You're talking about lyrics.
It does have captions, so you can understand what they're saying. If you're not a death metal, you can't usually follow it. I can't.
We should probably do captions, though, for all my Wavelength songs.
Maybe.
Actually, Los Campesinos are coming to Vancouver on November 1st. It's their 10th anniversary tour. Saw them a couple of times here. Great show when I first moved here with You Say Party, We Say Die, who we played in last week's show. I'm hoping to possibly try and grab a chat with the lead singer Gareth just to talk about all things football. But Whitecaps could be in the playoffs, I could be away who knows where. So yeah, we'll have time to talk to Gareth. Anyway, now it's time for BC Soccer Web headlines. BC Soccer Web headlines is brought to you in partnership with bcsoccerweb.com, your one-stop site for news, links, stories, articles and everything you could want from the world of football. Make it part of your daily routine, morning, noon and night. bcsoccerweb.com. What's been catching your eye on the site this week, Steve?
Quite a few things from different worlds of soccer.
Different worlds?
Yeah, different worlds, sorry.
Wow,
different
I can't wait to hear about Uranus.
Different parts of the world. Let's talk about, first of all, La Liga. There might be a strike action going on, and it's because the players aren't very happy about playing a game in the U.S. La Liga has gone into a 15-year contract with a U.S. company called Relevant to play at least one game. The first one will be in late January, a fixture between Barcelona and Girona. I think they're both Catalan teams, if I'm not mistaken. So the Spanish Spanish Association of Footballers, the league's clubs, nor the Spanish FA were consulted before La Liga, planned that agreement. So they're pretty unhappy about this. Now, if you think this is because it is a Girona home match, the supporters from them have a pretty good deal if they do want to attend. There's apparently 1,500 free flights to Miami for them, a choice of staying overnight for the weekend, or coming back straight after the match. There'll be, if they don't want to do that, there will be 5,000 free tickets to away game against Barcelona at Nou Camp and at 20% off their season tickets. Or if they don't want to do either of that, they'll just get 40% off their season tickets. Now, great deal for them. Yeah. Players aren't happy though at all.
No, I mean that. To be fair to Girona, that's a fantastic deal that they're offering. I would if MLS decided to play a game in Spain and it was the Whitecaps. I wonder what the Whitecaps would offer their season ticket packages.
I don't know. More than 12%.
Can donkeys cross the Atlantic if we put them on a little barge or something?
I'm not sure.
If only Zach was here, I'm sure he'd have some ideas. Text in, Zach. I know you're listening.
Next news story. Soccer fans clash with church members over Stadium Plaza. This happened in Peru. There is a church called the Upper Room. Hundreds of members wearing yellow construction helmets arrived in buses early one day and began painting the walls, covering the images of famed players from Alianza Lima. One of Peru's.
Don't ask me for pronunciation.
Yeah, they're one of Peru's most historic clubs. I've never heard of them, but I'm sure the Peruvian fans have.
It's not about Paddington Bear. My knowledge of Peru is nil.
And Jordi Reyna. The supporters of the club, they arrived, and basically the two sides clashed.
Yeah,
and there is video of that on the online. Police had to use tear gas to break up the confrontation. Two supporters were arrested. A number of church members were hospitalized. So they call football a religion in South America, and this is obviously
in the UK,
is obviously a religious war in that case.
And folk know that Zach is a pastor.
Yeah.
We can picture Zach leading the religious folk against the Whitecaps, painting over pictures of Bob Lenarduzzi in the Whitecaps front office.
Possibly.
Definitely.
And the thing is also the club has claimed that they own that plaza for 40 years, and the church has said they've owned it since 2016. So if they can prove that they've owned it for 4 years, that's an easy win for them, I guess. Talking about blast from the past, you talk about Bobby Leonard Deasy. A president played for his national team. It's President George Weah. Played for Liberia. They were going to set to retire his number 14, but surprisingly, unannounced to anybody, that media or the people that were playing or even the fans, he started in the match, and he just didn't start and then come off within the first 3 minutes. He played 79 minutes at age 51. It'd been 15 years since his last pro match. 2-1 win to Nigeria, though, so they didn't win the game, but it was interesting to see there.
And the same night,
his son
ended up playing for America against Mexico.
Yeah.
I would love to see Donald Trump turn out for America in a US qualifier, a World Cup qualifier.
Well, there were some Nigerian fans that were asking why didn't the Nigerian president play. I don't think he was a former footballer, so I don't think it's possible. But there was an article about that too.
Justin Trudeau for Canada. That'll be the next thing. Him and one wing, Fonzie in the
Well,
next.
he's a boxer. He can box.
Well, he'd be a box-to-box guy then.
Yeah, maybe. Scottish FA agrees to buy Hampden Park for £5 million in 2020. Currently, Queen's Park, it owns.
Yeah, they've always owned it, and Lesser Hampden beside it.
Actually, it's a lease, isn't it, for Queen's Park, or is it kind
I
of?
always thought they owned it.
Oh, well, it says when the existing lease expires.
I guess it must be then, yeah.
What do you think of this? Is this a good thing for the Scottish FA to get this, or do you think there's other options for them?
I always preferred them to go to Murrayfield. I know it's a rugby stadium. I just feel it's a much better stadium. It's got a bigger capacity. It's in Edinburgh. It's closer to where I lived.
Yeah.
It's got a better rail network because it's really hard to get to Hampden from the centre of Glasgow. It's in a residential area. It's not ideal. They only drew about 15,000 fans at Hampden for the last game against Albania.
They won, though.
Yeah.
The Eagle didn't land.
And I've done it right this week.
Okay.
If you're listening, Zach, I'm doing my Eagle and it's the proper way around.
And you hit the mic, though.
And I hit the mic, yeah. But, I mean, it is the spiritual home. So in some ways I like that. I was indifferent, really, either way. I would have preferred Murrayfield. Just
Well,
it was
still,
Edinburgh.
they might play in both. They could alternate back and forth.
Just not a fan of Ouija's.
FIFA is set to clamp down on big clubs' player loan deals. What this is FIFA is looking to limit the number of players sent out on loan to 8, basically, pending agreements amongst FIFA and the European Clubs Association. They also want to have a max 3 players being allowed to loan to a certain club at the same time. So you can't loan a number of players unless the player's under 21, has been trained at the home club, and has been under contract for an extended period of time. The teams that are mostly affected by this is Chelsea, Juventus, and Man City. They basically, what they want to do is they don't want all these teams just signing a whole bunch of players and then just loaning out.
Years,
which these 3 teams.
Yeah, so I think this is great.
And then loaning out the 3 at a time max, that would affect Man City, because Man City,
and New York City FC.
Yeah, exactly. New York City FC, they wouldn't be able to take more than 3 loanees. The Australian club that Man City owns, I can't remember.
I think it's Melbourne.
Maybe Melbourne. They can't take more than 3. So that's what they're looking at right now. They want to limit that. They don't want certain teams to just hoard all the players, basically, all the young players.
No, totally in agreement with that. I think that's the thing to do. These big clubs, they just kill the lower leagues, and then they sign these guys for really small amounts just now, and it's always offering sign-on deals or like selling-on deals or to make a certain number of appearances, and so many of them don't, and the clubs lose out.
And then you kill the talent too.
Yeah, and you're killing the player, and you're the club that could have had him and used him.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to sign a guy, let him stay at the club.
Yeah.
Don't just take him then loan him to someone else.
2030 World Cup is going to get a little bit more competition, it looks like. Right now, England is looking into it. South America, with I think it was Uruguay, Argentina, and...
For me, it has to go... It was Uruguay and Argentina, I think. Yeah. But for me, it should go there because it's the 100th year of it. It should be... The final should be in Montevideo. Should be back in Uruguay.
Well, one country is that considering it is Spain. They are looking to host it, and they will be possibly doing a joint bid with Portugal and our old friends Morocco as well. So that is a possibility. They are looking at the 2028 Euros as well. So that if they get that, then they might not go after the World Cup.
I don't know what they're going to end up doing with the Euros, because 2020 is when they're playing it all over the continent.
I think by saying hosting the one, I think they may play the final in that country. So I think that's what they're looking at by saying they're going to bid for it. Premier League this weekend tested VAR in certain matches, 4 matches in total. The testing actually didn't affect the play on the field. It was kind of like ghost, like they were pretending to be going through they were simulating it while the game was going on, but not actually discussing it with the referees on the field. So that's
what we had here before it went live. Yeah.
So essentially, out of the 4 games, only 1 call would have been overturned. So that they thought it was a success based on that. It would have been a goal that was ruled offside, but would have been ruled onside, and it would have counted the goal. So that's the only thing that would have affected it during those 4 games. Obviously, I don't think the eye gouging part was involved in that. And let's talk about that.
Yes, why not? That was fun.
There were a couple incidents on the pitch this week, and usually we talk about stuff off the pitch when we bring up news. But one was the Robert Firmino getting eye gouged by, I think, who was it? Vertonghen? Wait a second. Man, I wish Zach was here. He would have told.
Oh, well, Zach's been fact-checking us as we do this. So while you're looking it up, he wants to point out it was Melbourne City FC, New York City's Australian team. Okay. Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay. Vertonghen.
Yeah.
Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay are the 3 teams that are wanting to do it. And he said that the front office would charge extra to go to a game in Spain. Extra as in meaning more than it would cost you to normally go there.
So Vertonghen was the player that gouged out Firmino's eye. I don't think he got a red card for that. I'm not sure if he even got a foul. And then today in Serie A, Juventus's Douglas Costa spat in Di Vincenzo's mouth. And it was I'm not 100% sure if it was the mouth, but it was definitely directed towards that. And they claimed, yeah. And I actually put out a poll saying which was worse, getting eyes gouged out or getting spit in the mouth.
And like Joe said, spitting.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what the poll says.
The poll
to
said,
me, it's a clearly obvious answer, but come on.
The poll was worse to get spit in the mouth than having your eyes gouged. Now, I'm assuming that people are looking at it that because Firmino's eyes are fine. There was no damage to the eye itself.
Yes.
But there obviously is the potential for more damage to that than getting spit in the eye.
If you lost your eye, you're blind and you can't see. And you're in a glass eye.
Yeah.
Someone spits in your mouth, just wash your mouth out with some really strong...
Well, it depends on what that person who,
Well, yeah, if you had AIDS or something, it'd be a little bit more complicated, but...
North American soccer, news right there. First of all, out of Mexico, speaking of not being one to spit in by this person, Maradona is taking over a club.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want him spitting in my mouth.
Yeah, he's taking over a club. He's coaching it in the middle of Mexico's cartel heartland, basically in the middle of their area. He's taking over bottom-dwelling Dorados in what some describe as a publicity stunt for the team. I think it's dangerous for him to be, for his own benefit, be in that area.
It's dangerous for anyone really to be in an area
for him, based on his vices and everything.
Yeah. Wow, that's a strange one.
Speaking of promotions,
you're talking about strange teams.
Speaking of promotions, USL side Las Vegas, they brought llamas out. They've done other things.
Yes.
This weekend they dropped $5,000 in cash on the field
on purpose as well.
Yeah, from a helicopter, and with other fans trying to get the money while it's flying all over the place.
See, I don't see why this was a big story, because the Whitecaps dropped $750,000 on Breck Shea.
Yeah. Exactly. Not from a helicopter, though.
No.
Although people probably hoped that Breck Shea.
Oh, that could be like we had shoot Joe Cannon out of a cannon.
Yeah. Drop Breck Shea from
a helicopter. I want to see FC Cincinnati do this, but with turkeys now. Reliving WKRP.
Yeah. Tata Martino, is going to make his decision on his future in the next 15 to 20 days. Apparently, he is might be taking over the Colombian or Argentine national sides. He has denied talking to either of the teams, but says negotiations have begun. But some sources say negotiations have begun. It'd be interesting to see how that affects Atlanta if they do it. He says that he wants to make the decision soon before the playoffs, but you think that would affect the team if they knew their coach was going?
Well, no. As long as he doesn't leave before the playoffs start,
yeah, that's true.
Which he's not going to. But it's going to make them... do it for the coach.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
maybe.
the big thing that Robbo's. All the players are coming out and say we want to do it for the coach. Stuart Kerr's tweeting about unity and the team, and so I mean it would make them want to send him off with a bang and land the MLS Cup.
Yeah, just actually a quick note. Today in American football in the NFL.
Oh, don't spoil the Niners game.
No, I won't.
Watched it.
One player actually retired at halftime without telling the players. Just left, got changed and left at halftime.
Really?
Yeah, retired from football.
What?
At halftime, yeah.
What was the game?
It was Buffalo, and I don't know who Buffalo was. San Diego. Buffalo was playing San Diego. The Buffalo defensive back just changed his clothes and left. Didn't say any word to any of his teammates or coaches or anything like that. Maybe he told one or two guys, but he basically left. Last bit of news we have. We talked about CPL before, but the CPL there is going to be a back-to-back rivalry game. Aly Ghazal.
It's the second one they've had. This is the youth one.
This is FC Edmonton playing Cavalry FC. They will be playing at Spruce Meadows. Actually, the first match that will be played there on 3 p.m. on Saturday, September 29th. And then the return fixture is going to be a month later, October 20th, in Edmonton at Clark Stadium. So it's good to see that they're kind of ramping up towards the CPL with some of these games. I know Halifax played a game against a German side, so it's good to get a little bit of a teasing out there for fans to come out and support the team.
It'd be nice if Pacific FC maybe play some pre-season friendlies on the mainland. I know it's an island team and they're not for the mainland, but it would be nice to maybe get a bit of interest in them.
Yeah, and I think once the tryouts happen and everything, they'll probably have more players to choose from as well.
Yeah. You did well getting through that. Not too many bad pronunciations this week. We should touch, though, Don Garber, when one of the things he was talking about, it's like, fans in the league want to see Alphonso Davies, but they also want to see Kendall Watson.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who he is, but I'm keen to see him as well.
Yeah. Maybe he's thinking Matt Watson.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is it for this week's episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Thank you for listening. We will be back next weekend with our 300th episode. Midweek, we're going to have episode 299. Joe, Nick, maybe Gideon will be previewing the big Dallas game. We've got some special stuff lined up for the 300th episode. Just before we go, just let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat.
Remember, you can find Joe at Joe Deasy Van. Find Zach at Zachary AM. I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada, Instagram at AFTN Soccer, and Facebook at AFTN Canada. Read our stuff on aftn.ca. And until next week, thanks for listening. Take care and mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
AFTN.